Do you like my sweater? It's my grandma's. So the end of 2020 is near, and I wanted to talk about some books I read during 2020. At the end of every year, I try to take kind of an inventory of what I read, how many books I read, what kind of books they were, did I have a favorite, did I have a least favorite? And so I'm just gonna, this is my 2020 year wrap up of reading things. This year my goal was to read 60 books. I read 22 books. So no, I did not reach my goal. This year was a really weird year for me for reading because, well, I feel like this was either a really great year for reading or a really bad year for reading, depending on how you handled quarantine and lockdown or whatever happened wherever you were. I didn't handle it really well in terms of reading. Other things occupied my time. So I only read 22 books, and so I didn't reach my goal, so that's fine. Anyway, I wanted to talk about my favorite, my least favorite, my biggest surprise, my biggest disappointment, and a couple books that I would recommend to you. And now see, this is the thing, I could talk about the same books over and over again, but for each of the category, I told myself I needed to use a different book so that my biggest disappointment wasn't my least favorite book, and that I had to recommend 2 other books to you. Which, well, that's mostly just I get to recommend 2 other books to you. 1 fantasy and 1 contemporary. My favorite book of this year, which I liked 80% of the books that I read. 80% of the books that I read this year, I would recommend to you and say, yes, I really liked that book and I enjoyed every second of it. Well, enjoyed being a relative term. I mean, some of these books made me legit cry. But for the most part, I enjoyed them. And no, Shadowhunters isn't on this list. Although I do really like Shadowhunters. I used other books than the 2 Shadowhunter books that came out this year because I haven't finished one of them. My favorite book this year was the last book that I read. Shocker, not really, because I've been looking forward to this book ever since I found out it came out, which a friend of mine, a neighbor of mine, told me about because we had talked about the series that this book was in, and she was like, Marian, did you know that this book came out? And I was like, I did not know this book came out. It's out. I thought that was next year. And so then I hurried and ordered it and then read it. Forget Me Not by Sarah M. Eden. I mean, you've heard me talk about the John Quills. You know how I love the John Quill brothers. This is about their parents, who I've really wanted to meet and get to know the story of how they got together, because reasons that I don't want to spoil for you in the John Quill brothers books, but I loved every second of this book. And not all of the seconds of this book were really nice. No. There was a lot of sadness in this book, but I enjoyed it anyway because it was just so effing cute. I love these characters, and I've never read a book about a romance in the 1700s. Never. So that was really interesting for me. A first time. I've only ever read them in the 1800s, but this was this dealt with, you know, the aftermath of the Revolutionary War. So that was pretty cool. I've never read one like that before, but I could definitely see where the boys get their traits. I mean, I love those John Quill boys. I love them with probably a bit too much of my heart. They get a lot from their father, like a lot. And I can also see parts that they get from their mother, but there were these 2 parts where I just like, oh my goodness, his son, this one son, his eldest son, or the second youngest son, because that's the last book that we got from the John Quills. We haven't read the youngest son's book yet, but especially those 2 in 2 different places, but I could definitely see the other sons in there. I was just like, oh my goodness. They're just, it's adorable. And again, I would recommend this, because this Forget Me Not by Sarah M. Eden was my favorite book of 2020. My least favorite book of 2020 was a book that I really didn't feel anything towards. I read it and I was like, okay. I read that. That happened in my life and now we're moving on. Anya's Ghost, graphic novel. I read this for a readathon. Reading Rush. I read this for Reading Rush. Because it was a graphic novel and I had heard good things about it and I wanted to read more graphic novels. And it was like fine. I mean, I literally can't say anything bad about this book. It's just, I guess it just wasn't my vibe. While it was aight and fine and I was like, I read it really fast and then enjoyed it while I read it. Afterwards, I kind of forgot about it. Shoo. So to end on a happy note, I'm gonna go into my biggest disappointment for 2020 instead of my biggest surprise for 2020. So my biggest disappointment for 2020 was a book that I was really excited about. It was one of my 2020 anticipated reads and I got it and I read the synopsis and I read it when I got it again and I was just like, yes, this seems like something I can totally vibe with. And yeah, We Are Totally Normal by Raul Kanakia. I always butcher names, and I know I'm butchering names because everyone butchers my name first and last. This book was just a book where I was like, where are we going with this? Are we going anywhere with this? What is happening? And while I feel the main character grew a bit, I'm also like, I don't know what I just read. I just found myself rolling my eyes at him a bit too much to really. I liked the secondary characters more than I liked the main character, which that's not the first time that's happened, because that happened in Shadowhunters. But over time, the main character grew on me and I like her. I don't feel like I got that time with this guy. So this was my biggest disappointment because I was disappointed I didn't vibe with it. I didn't get it. I feel like maybe I'm not the kind of person that's supposed to get it. I didn't get it. I didn't understand. My biggest surprise for 2020 was also on my 2020's anticipated reads list. This was a book that I had read the synopsis of and I was like, that sounds interesting. That sounds really interesting. But it wasn't a book that I thought I would really like love. I thought I might enjoy it and find it intriguing. But oh my goodness. Oh. You Deserve Each Other by Sarah. It's either Hogel or Hoggle. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know how to say her last name. But You Deserve Each Other was so funny. It was so funny. I can't get over how hilarious it is. Literally, still to this day, I read this in the summer, I believe. Still to this day, I will just be like, oh my gosh. To myself, in my brain, do you remember when they did this at that part in the story? Oh my gosh, that was so funny. Or do you remember when she said this to him? Or when he retaliated with this? Ugh, guys, this was so funny. This was really funny. I mean, it's about people trying to break off an engagement, or a girl trying to break off an engagement. It's so funny. It was so funny, and it was really sweet. I didn't expect it to go the way that it went at all, but it was really, really sweet and heartwarming and cute and hilarious and thoughtful. It was a lot more than I expected it to be. Like the exact opposite. I expected less of this and then I got more than I expected. It was really good. It was so good. It was so funny. I will reread this book. Just because it was great. For my other two recommendations for you guys, I wanted to do a contemporary and a fantasy because I couldn't decide on one, because contemporary and fantasy are my favorite genres to read. and I really wanted to talk about 2 non-Shadowhunter books that I would recommend to you. Books I thought that not a lot of people have talked about on BookTube and wanted to give a little bit more love to. The contemporary one was on my 2020 anticipated reads list because I freaking love one of these authors, and that was Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed. I think that's how you say her name. This book delivered everything that I love about Becky Albertalli and new stuff, which I'm pretty sure was from Aisha, and oh my goodness, I loved it. Every second of it. I loved it. Okay, so it's about people doing door-to-door campaigning or something for a campaign, obviously political. I don't really do political things, but this was just so cute. But this is definitely a read. I recommend all Becky Albertalli books to pretty much anyone ever because they are so cute and so thoughtful and just so much more. And for my fantasy one, this was a book I got in a Lit Crate box. Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. Dude, the magic in this book is amazing. The plot of this book, I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming. It was fantastic. I loved it. I read it in the winter. This was the first book I read of 2020. It was like winter, and I lived close to a mountain, and this happened on a mountain, and they were like trapped on the mountain because of a really heavy storm, and I vibed so hard with this book about witches and everything. I loved it. The mystery and just the gigantic plot twist. Fantastic. Definitely would recommend this. That's why I'm recommending it. I recommend this. That is it. That is my 2020 wrap up. I will do another video in 2021 about my 2021 reading goals, so you can wait for that. But that's it. I just wanted to share with you guys my wrap up for this year. I didn't get my goal. That's okay. I can always try to get better than I did this year, next year. So, I hope you guys liked it. If you did, you know what to do. Give me a thumbs up and comment down below if you've read any of these books, or you can give me your 2020 wrap up down in the comments below. Or you could also go check out my other socials and leave me your 2020 wrap up over there, or comment on any of the books that you may have seen me post over there. And until I can see you guys again, and if you haven't, please subscribe and stick around so that I can see you again. And until I have the opportunity to see you again, I hope you guys are having an amazing week and an amazing life. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.